Not your blood pressure. It's silent sadness, draining your energy. Every day, I thought my blood pressure was killing me. But the real danger wasn't in my heart. It was something much quieter, something no doctor caught for years. And by the time I realized it, I had already lost a decade of my life. If you've been waking up tired even after 8 hours of sleep, if simple tasks leave you feeling drained, if food has lost its flavor and joy feels out of reach, this video might explain the one thing no one warned you about. Because what's stealing your strength may not be your age or your arteries, but a quiet emotional exhaustion you've been taught to ignore. Most seniors in America are prescribed pills for high blood pressure, cholesterol, or sleep, but rarely are they asked one simple question: when was the last time you truly felt alive? This isn't sadness with tears. This is a slow fading of light inside you. It doesn't hurt, it just empties. It's not dramatic, so people assume you're fine. But it's costing you energy, memory, even years. And if no one tells you what it really is, you'll keep trying to fix the wrong thing. That's why I'm sharing this not as a doctor, not as a therapist, but as someone who finally saw through the fog. If this resonates, please consider subscribing. It gives us the strength to keep creating honest healing conversations for people like you. Now let me ask you this, which feels more familiar lately? A, I feel physically tired, but I don't know why. B, I feel emotionally numb, like I've lost interest in life. Comment A or B below, I read every reply. Because what comes next might change how you see everything. I wish someone had told me earlier that the body has a language of its own when the soul starts hurting. Not through dramatic cries or panic attacks, but through soft, quiet signals easy to dismiss, but impossible to ignore once you understand them. It often starts with food, not with nausea, not with illness, just a steady loss of appetite. Meals that once brought comfort now feel like chores. You push the plate away halfway through, not because you're full, but because you're indifferent. When your spirit dims, even the flavor of life begins to fade. Then comes the fatigue, a deep, lingering exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. You wake up tired. Folding laundry takes the strength of climbing a hill. You cancel plans, not because you're busy, but because the idea of engaging feels too heavy. And still, the test results say you're fine. Another quiet signal. Isolation by choice. You love your family. You miss your friends. But something inside you hesitates. You let calls go to voicemail. You tell yourself you'll reply later, but you never do. Not because you don't care, but because some part of you no longer feels connected enough to reach out. There's also a strange rhythm to the nights. You fall asleep, but then wake at 3 a.m. Not from pain or noise, but from some unnamed stirring inside. You lie there staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of everything you never say out loud. That's not insomnia, that's your emotions knocking. And perhaps the most confusing part of it all, forgetfulness that doesn't feel like dementia. You start misplacing small things, forgetting why you entered a room. It's not about memory loss, it's about mental fog. Emotional numbness slows cognition. It doesn't erase your mind, it dulls your clarity. These signs are not failures, they are signals. Your body isn't betraying you, it's begging you to listen. And the longer you ignore these whispers, the louder they become, turning into years lost to a fog you never meant to walk into. So ask yourself, are these signs showing up in your daily life? Because if they are, You're not alone, and you're not too late to start healing. Once you begin to recognize the signs, a deeper question naturally follows. Why is this happening? Why would someone who's survived so much, raised a family, worked hard, and made it to 65 or 70, suddenly feel so empty, so fragile? The truth is, emotional exhaustion in our later years rarely explodes all at once. It doesn't come from one dramatic event. It builds slowly, quietly, almost respectfully over time. Like water wearing down stone. One of the most overlooked triggers is retirement. People talk about retiring like it's a victory lap. But for many of us, it feels like being erased. The routine disappears, the purpose fades, and even though you have time, you no longer feel needed. That can shake a man to his core. Then there's grief, which doesn't always arrive with funerals. Sometimes grief comes from losing a friend who used to call every Sunday, or a neighbor who moved away, or a spouse whose mind is slipping even though their body's still here. These are quiet goodbyes that no one teaches you how to mourn. Family dynamics shift too. Your children still love you, of course, but they're busy. They mean well, but the phone calls come less often. The holidays get quieter. You begin to sense you're becoming a footnote in the lives you once built. Even your physical surroundings can betray you. Maybe you moved to a new neighborhood after downsizing. Suddenly, you don't know the cashier's name at the grocery store. You don't have the same walking path, and no one says hi like they used to. That loss of familiarity is subtle, but it stings. And then there's the loss of identity. You're no longer the coach, the nurse, the teacher, the provider. You're retired, you're older, you're grandpa or mom. And while those titles are beautiful, they don't always reflect the full depth of who you still are inside. These changes don't scream, they whisper. That's what makes them so dangerous. You might not even realize they're draining you until one day you find yourself sitting in a quiet room wondering when your life started feeling like someone else's. But here's the turning point. What breaks us isn't always what defines us. And if you've felt these shifts, you're not broken. You're just adjusting to a world that never warned you how hard this season could be. And that brings us to something more hopeful, how to rebuild strength, not just physically, but emotionally, so you can rise again on your own terms. Emotional healing after 60 doesn't look like a Hollywood movie. There's no dramatic transformation, no therapist with all the answers, no magic moment that suddenly makes the sadness disappear. Instead, it's something far quieter, something built, not found. Science has shown us that the human brain remains plastic, flexible even into our 80s. That means healing isn't just possible, it's biological. But it doesn't happen by accident. It takes small, repeated actions that send a signal to your nervous system. You're safe again. You're connected again. You're not done yet. One of the most powerful ways to begin healing is through purposeful connection. Studies from Harvard's 75-year longitudinal study on aging show that strong social ties are the #1 predictor of happiness and health in later life above exercise, diet, or even income. And yet loneliness remains a silent epidemic among older adults. You don't need a crowd. One consistent relationship, a neighbor, a friend, even someone you email every week, can act as a lifeline. And don't underestimate the healing power of giving. Volunteering at your local library or church, mentoring a younger person, or simply checking in on someone else's day, it rewires your sense of value. You remember you still matter. Another scientifically backed tool is gentle movement. Not gym workouts or strict routines, just simple, consistent activity. A 20-minute walk each morning, a slow stretching session, even gardening. These actions stimulate the release of endorphins, natural mood elevators, and reduce cortisol, the stress hormone that contributes to fatigue, anxiety, and depression. Breathwork and body awareness exercises like Tai Chi or chair yoga also have profound effects on the nervous system. The Mayo Clinic confirms that even 5 minutes of deep breathing can lower heart rate, improve mental clarity, and reduce emotional reactivity. It's like sending your body a message. You're not under threat anymore. Perhaps most underestimated, though, is creative expression. Journaling, painting, playing an instrument, even humming a tune in the kitchen. These are not hobbies, they're medicine. Creative activity activates the default mode network in the brain, associated with reflection, identity, and emotional integration. In plain terms, it helps you make sense of your story. Even writing one sentence each night today, I felt, or one thing I noticed, can open a door to your own inner world that may have been locked for years. What ties all of this together isn't effort, it's consistency. Emotional healing isn't about fixing what's broken. It's about rebuilding what's been neglected. And every time you show up for yourself, you're telling your mind and your heart, I still care. I'm still here. I'm still becoming. You may be over 60, but that doesn't mean your story is winding down. It just means it's time to write the chapters that come from wisdom, not just survival. I didn't wake up one morning and feel healed. There was no lightning bolt, no breakthrough moment that suddenly lifted the fog. The truth is, what saved me didn't feel heroic. It felt small, almost invisible, but it was real. It started the day I admitted out loud, I'm not okay. Not to a doctor, not to my family, just to myself. I looked in the mirror and said it, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel ashamed. I felt relieved. That tiny act, naming what I was feeling, opened a crack in the wall I'd built around myself. And then I did something else. I reached out to a friend I hadn't spoken to in years. No big conversation, just a message, I've been thinking about you. The reply came back a few hours later, and I cried when I read it, not because of what it said, but because it reminded me I still mattered to someone. From there, I made a quiet pact with myself to do one small thing every day that honored the life still in me. Some days, it was making my own breakfast and sitting outside for 5 minutes. Some days, it was writing a memory down. Other times, it was texting a friend even if they didn't reply. And little by little, the fog began to lift. I stopped waiting for joy to come back on its own. I started rebuilding it one brick at a time. And I stopped thinking of healing as something only for the young. Healing, I realized, is for the willing. There's a moment I remember so clearly. I was sitting in the park watching a group of kids play, and for the first time in a long while, I smiled, really smiled without forcing it. Not because anything big had changed, but because I had. No pill did that. No lecture, no self-help book. Just presence, consistency, courage to show up for my own life again. If you're watching this and feeling that quiet ache inside, the one that says you're invisible or past your prime, or simply tired of pretending you're fine, I want you to hear this. You are not invisible, you are not done, and you don't have to do anything grand to come back to life. You just have to begin. Healing after 60 isn't about returning to who you were. It's about becoming who you're still meant to be. So today, before this video ends, whisper to yourself the words, "I once did, I'm still here." That's where it begins. If there's one thing I've learned through this journey, it's that growing older doesn't mean fading away. It means returning to what's essential. We spend so many years building careers, families, homes, reputations, but at some point, the world gets quieter. The kids move on, the titles fall away, and what we're left with isn't what we've built, it's who we've become. This stage of life isn't just about enduring, it's about reclaiming. Reclaiming your peace, your voice, your curiosity. Healing doesn't always come from fixing. Sometimes it comes from listening, from asking, "What do I need today?" and allowing yourself to answer honestly. So if anything in this video spoke to you, I encourage you to take just one thing forward. Maybe it's reaching out to someone you've been thinking about. Maybe it's stepping outside for 5 minutes each morning. Or maybe it's simply whispering to yourself before bed, "I'm still becoming." These small actions are not small. They are powerful declarations that your story still matters. You are not alone in this. And your life, even now, especially now, is still worth living with intention, with meaning, and with grace. Here's something I'd love to hear from you. What's one small thing you do or want to start doing that helps you feel more alive? Leave a comment below with your answer. I read every single one. And if this message resonated with you, please consider subscribing. It helps us keep creating honest healing content for people who deserve to feel seen, valued, and encouraged in every stage of life. If you feel moved to support this mission further, you're welcome to make a small donation to help us continue. But above all, your presence, your voice, your story, that's what matters most. Until next time, take care of yourself. You're not alone here, and you are not done yet.